Good evening, everyone. Severe Weather Team 9 meteorologist Nathan Shunt here for this edition of Nate at 8. We've been tracking showers and thunderstorms going throughout this afternoon, now continuing in this evening, although at this point, the activity really starting to wind down and will continue to taper off likely altogether here early on tonight. And the worst for today's likely has come and gone. And now while we do see some showers lingering, again, we're starting to see this activity wind down now at this hour. We're going to be tracking some thankfully quieter conditions as we do look ahead going into the overnight hours. So for this edition of Nate at 8, those afternoon storms, well, they do continue. So while this afternoon we dealt with them and now they're tapering off for the overnight, by tomorrow afternoon, we're likely seeing that next round of showers and thunderstorms develop. And that's going to be a theme that we'll likely see carry over for most of the stretch here into early next week, where these overnight hours are mainly, if not completely dry. Same story in the morning, but by the time we get in the afternoon and evening, we're dealing with scattered showers and thunderstorms. And again, I think that's not all these days, but most of the days now continuing starting today all the way into Monday of next week. It's a similar pattern that we're going to see set up here over the next handful of days. Severe flooding threat, unfortunately, is present. It continues. We saw it come to fruition, unfortunately, today, and that potential is there again on a daily basis going into next week. So we still have to keep vigilant, keep weather aware, have multiple ways to get warnings, and especially, you want to keep very aware into the afternoon and evening hours where most of these thunderstorms are present and that highest potential for flooding and severe weather is there. Outside of that, it just remains hot and humid. Highs near 90. It'll feel well in the 90s likely here the next couple of days. And even when temperatures can fall back more mid-upper 80s this weekend, it can still feel like it's in the 90s. So just in general, we're remaining hot and humid into early next week with now an active weather pattern in place. So let's jump into things and really want to get through this before we jump into comments, because we dealt with what could have been some considerable flooding into a portion of Wetzel County. We're still trying to gather some details. Have not heard much coming out of that area. The National Weather Service office at Pittsburgh is trying to gather details. We are trying to gather details. So if you have any to pass along, please do so. But again, right now, the activity, thankfully, is really winding down. As you can see, there's not much present at all on radar. Some showers continuing in a location south of I-70, showers tapering off altogether north of I-70, and what does remain for these lingering showers will likely be tapering off as we do extend here closer to the time the sun sets and early on tonight here over the next couple of hours. Really, this activity that remains will likely be winding down. So the rain estimate over the last 24 hours, it's a good illustration to show the more scattered activity, right? There's some locations that saw very little rainfall today, other locations that picked up upwards of an inch of rain, and the location of main concern that we had were locations into Wetzel County. This was north of New Martinsville, mainly towards Proctor, locations closer to Proctor, towards the southeast of Proctor. These locations were radar estimated upwards of 3 inches, right around 3 inches of rain falling in the course of an hour. I know this says last 24 hours, but this was earlier this evening. In the course of 1 hour, saw upwards of about 3 inches of rain falling. So that is enough rain for the potential for considerable flooding. We have had some reports coming out of areas there near Proctor where this flash flood warning is now in effect for Proctor Creek and Proctor Creek Road. Again, the northwestern portion of Wetzel County. Flash flood warning it remains in effect. The threat considerable. Again, they remains in effect until 9:30. Still some rain falling, but that real heavy downpour has thankfully come to an end. And some storm reports coming out of this area already. The reports of 2 adults and 1 child trapped in a home on Proctor Creek Road with water rising quickly. That was at 6:49. Also reports 7:45 flooding along County Road 89 along Proctor Creek. At least a portion of the road is washed out. So again, these reports have been sparse. We've reached out to the Wetzel County EMA, have not heard back. Not getting a whole lot of word out of Wetzel County, but we're trying to gather the details. The National Weather Service office at Pittsburgh is trying to gather details of what exactly occurred along Proctor Road at Proctor Creek in northwestern portion of Wetzel County. But unfortunately, that potential was there for some considerable flash flooding with upwards of 3 inches of rain falling within an hour. So we're still gathering details, but unfortunately, that potential was there. And I believe we are going to be sending a crew down to assess the situation here later on this evening. And we'll bring you the latest coming up on News 9 at 10 on Fox 9, News 9 tonight at 11. So, again, if you have any word or reports of this area, please chime it in. Please comment. But we're still trying to gather the details there into Wetzel County. That could have very well been the worst of impacts that we saw for today, was that flooding into the northwestern portion of Wetzel County. Again, this is north of New Martinsville, closer to Proctor, West Virginia, and especially in areas further east and southeast of Proctor in the northwestern portion of Wetzel County, where we just a couple reports coming in so far and still trying to gather more information on those areas into Wetzel County. Another report coming out of Wetzel County of Pine Grove, a tree down on State Route 20. Also, other storm reports across the area. What was primarily what we dealt with these severe thunderstorms was that potential for some damaging winds. We've had some small hail in the mix. I think there was a potential at times for some large hail, even though we didn't get a report of that. I think the potential was there. But mainly the reports coming in with these severe thunderstorms were wind damage. In Salem as well, tree number of branches reported down at 4 o'clock into northern Columbiana County. Report there in the southeastern part of Tuscarawas County near Stillwater, a tree reported down on Eddy Hill Road, just northwest of Stillwater. Another report coming in out of Monroe County near Graysville. A couple of trees reported down at the intersection of State Route 26 and Connor Ridge Road. And unfortunately, these reports of flooding, these reports of wind damage is unfortunately something that we'll still have to watch for. That is still possible over the coming days as we unfortunately maintain that potential for severe weather and localized flooding with these rounds of thunderstorms that are developing into the afternoon. So that's why I say we got to keep vigilant, keep weather aware, right? Download the Severe Weather Team 9 mobile app, and that will give you a heads up of rain heading your way, lightning registered near you, any warnings issued for your area. That's a great tool to have. Obviously, a smartphone is a great way to get those warnings. Outside of that, NOAA Weather Radio is likely, I think, the backup for the best option. That's going to, alarm in the event of a warning and, give that bulletin read of what the warning's for, the precautions, the actions to take in the event of that warning from the National Weather Service. In general, radio, local radio station will play those alerts as well. If you're watching TV, it'll scroll across the bottom of your screen. Obviously social media can be another way to get it, but just have multiple ways to get these warnings that can still be issued, unfortunately. Again, I think really almost on a daily basis as these potential for showers and thunderstorms continue as we extend into early next week. So it's unfortunate that we have to deal with it. But again, just the best thing to do is keep weather aware and have multiple ways to get those warnings, right? So now that we got through that, again, I apologize. I promise I'm not ignoring the comments. I wanted to really get through that before we dived into some of these comments. I appreciate all of you tuning in. Again, if you're just now tuning in, we're really trying to assess this situation in Wetzel County, northwestern Wetzel County. That potential was there for some considerable flash flooding. Some reports along Proctor Creek Road and along Proctor Creek of a water rescue, including 2 adults and a child in a home. Also getting reports of a portion of that road, County Road 89 along Proctor Creek in northwestern Wetzel County, a portion of that road washed out. So we're going to likely be sending a crew here later this evening. So they will be going down, assessing the situation. We've been reaching out to authorities, just have not heard back, have not heard much out of Wetzel County. National Weather Service Office of Pittsburgh trying to find out more information, has not heard much out of Wetzel County, but we'll be going down and sending a crew down there, and they'll bring you the latest coming up on 10 and 11 o'clock, News 9 at 10 and News 9 tonight at 11. So Drew and Austin joining us. So let's catch up on Austin here from YouTube. Good evening. The storms were insane and strong, certainly some strong thunderstorms and real intense ones. That one, especially in Wetzel County, that potential was there for wind gusts even upwards about 70 miles per hour and quarter size hail. That was likely, in my opinion, the strongest strongest storm we had in our area throughout the course of this afternoon and evening. But yes, these were some intense storms in general, some frequent lightning, heavy downpours, some gusty winds, but a lot of these had some small hail at least in them as well. So yeah, certainly some intense storms, Austin. Rain and wind was blowing very crazy. Lightning was super sharp and the thunder was loud that it felt the house shake. Austin joining us this evening on YouTube, reporting that. Drew says, good evening. How are you doing? I'm doing well. How are you? Should St. C expect any storms tonight? So Drew, now the activity starting to wind down at this point, thankfully. And what does remain for these lingering showers will likely taper off here early on. Not going to continue, I don't think, overnight. But we will have to watch again for tomorrow afternoon. I know St. C was one of those areas that was more on the miss side, right, than the hit side for today. But I'd be watching. We can see those showers and thunderstorms as they redevelop may very well be more on the hit side tomorrow in St. C than miss. It's just hard to really tell, right? When this precipitation is more scattered in nature, it's hard to pinpoint any precise location as, they'll be hit or they'll be missed. And it's unfortunately an impossible task, but that is what we're going to see again tomorrow with more of these scattered showers and thunderstorms developing. Drew mentioning this, all the big storms of radar go through New Martinsville. Sports on the Go show was great tonight. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, we did have it was on Fox 9, our YouTube, Facebook page as well. Sports on the Go covering really just like covering a lot of the area teams before, high school football season arrives. We're, going through and talking with some of the players, coaches. And if you missed it tonight, it will be coming back for tomorrow and Friday. What Drew mentioned that as well. If you missed it, and you will catch it again tomorrow and Friday. So there you go, Drew. Absolutely. If you missed it, you can watch it in the next couple of days at the same location, Fox 9 and YouTube, Facebook. I will be streaming on those social media platforms on the WTOV9 page, and you can watch that coming up. 5 to 8 o'clock is the time, 5 to 8, the next 2 evenings. And we'll have that back on again. Don and Bill will be sitting down, Don Sloan, Bill Phillips, sitting down and talking with some area coaches, even some high school band directors, in addition to some high school football players, talking and just really highlighting the upcoming high school football season. The rain near New Martinsville, definitely a flooding rain, unfortunately, Drew. Yes, I see the torrential downpour, upwards of about 3 inches of rain, what a radar estimated in the portions of where northwestern Wetzel County. Good evening there, Lola. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to see the flooding rains go away for the time being. Too much rain. Yes, absolutely, Drew. Thankfully, not continuing overnight that we have to worry about it. But fortunately, still got to keep vigilant into these afternoon, evening hours the next couple of days as it continues. And even into early next week, really, not just the next couple of days, but even continuing into early next week. Good evening there, Sean. Thanks for tuning in. No problem through Drew. All right. Thank you very much, Drew. Joe, good evening to you. Austin says, my phone let a very high pitch alerting us about the flash flood warning. Good there, Drew. That's why I say that the smartphone, NOAA weather radio, the two best options, two great options to get that alert. For any warnings issued. Lola saying prayers for all those affected by these storms. Absolutely. Hopefully it was not too bad into Wetzel County. Our thoughts and prayers certainly for that area right now. The potential was there, unfortunately, for considerable flash flooding, but hopefully not coming to fruition. Hopefully it wasn't too bad, but we're continuing to try to gather information, assess the situation. But yes, thoughts and prayers are certainly with those right now into Wetzel County, that hopefully along Proctor Creek Road and Proctor Creek, hopefully did not get too bad. But we'll further gather further information throughout this evening and bring you the latest on what we do find out coming up at 10 and 11. How about at Wood Lake Park? What about it, Shane? Just curious about what we have for this evening. So not too much remaining this evening. It'll be tapering off then as we extend going throughout the night. So there's some showers in place this evening, but it tapers off as we over the next couple of hours. It's going to be quiet then overnight. Just one thing to watch for tomorrow morning would be that potential for some areas of fog, especially for those locations that saw some rounds of heavy rain. It can be followed up by some dense fog going into tomorrow morning. Low temperatures. It's warm and muggy, only falling into the lower 70s. A quiet start to tomorrow, but then just like today, we see more scattered showers and thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon, continuing into the evening. And unfortunately, when we're into this type of pattern, it's really impossible to pinpoint what location gets rain and what doesn't. But just like today, some of us can stay bone dry, other of us can see upwards of an inch or more of rainfall from these heavy downpours with the thunderstorms. So it is hit and miss. It's on and off, and that's going to be the story likely again for the latter part of Thursday. And this will carry over then Thursday evening, but much like what we're seeing now, likely tapering off rather quickly going into the early part of Thursday night. And then going into Friday morning, again, same story, starting off dry. Friday afternoon, watching for more showers and thunderstorms redeveloping as we do extend going into Friday night. Now, I think we can break this cycle some. Friday night, I think we can see a few showers and thunderstorms persist into Saturday, and then coverage will pick up throughout the day Saturday. While it's more of a few to start off the day, I think it'll further pick up, and we'll deal with more, even possibly numerous showers and thunderstorms extending then into the second half of Saturday. So coverage Saturday could be a bit greater with respect to the next couple of days, which is still more of that hit or miss variety, and primarily into the afternoon and evening. Saturday can bring more numerous showers and thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon and evening, while the morning can be more scattered in nature. By Sunday, it does look like that potential will drop for rain. It looks like we could get by with just some isolated showers and thunderstorms. So most of us could stay dry for the second half of the weekend. And then by Monday, coverage will pick back up. Same story likely as Thursday, Friday. It's more going to be in the afternoon, evening, and we'll see the showers and thunderstorms, though, continue Monday night with some lingering showers into Tuesday mornings. So not quite the same at that point, looking ahead to early next week. But yes, for a lot of these days looking ahead, the emphasis certainly Saturday still is in the afternoon and evening. That isolated shower thunderstorm potential Sunday, the emphasis is in the afternoon and evening. So similar in that regard as we do extend into early next week. And we deal with some of these lingering showers into Tuesday. By the end of the day, Tuesday likely drying up, and we'll get into a quieter stretch of weather around the middle of next week, getting into a quieter pattern. Just Austin saying not looking forward to more heavy rain. I know, Austin, unfortunately, it's something we'll have to closely watch, as that potential for some localized flooding, I think, is there really on a daily basis for most of this. Maybe not so much Sunday, just to the fact that it's a low chance and it's more isolated. But, in general, I think for most of these afternoons ahead, we'll just have to keep vigilant and watch for that potential for localized flooding and the potential for some strong to severe thunderstorms. Shane just says, wondering if we'll have any more rain for tonight or this week or the 4th of July. So for tonight, likely not, Shane. The rain's coming to an end. For this week, yeah. So unfortunately, it's just one of those things where it's hard to, be precise on what areas hits, what areas miss, right? But that potential is there on almost a daily basis, Shane, for those scattered showers and thunderstorms for Atwood Lake Park. So it's just how lucky you can get really when it comes to these scattered showers and thunderstorms. I think Saturday is going to be more on the hit side, maybe harder to dodge those showers and thunderstorms at that point. Again, the emphasis Saturday is still in the afternoon and evening. Sunday overall looks mostly dry across the area. Then it's back to more hit or miss Monday. So yeah, it could very well deal with, maybe a couple rounds of rain over the next 5 days, or maybe almost rain every day over the next 5 days. It's just unfortunate that it's just it's not widespread, which is good, but it's scattered. So it could very well be that Atwood Lake Park is more hit than miss, and or more miss than hit. And unfortunately, it's just hard to pinpoint any precise location in this type of pattern into our summer months when the precipitation is more scattered in nature. So going into the 4th of July, Shane, it does look like that weather does start to quiet down around the middle of next week. Hopefully get into a quieter stretch of weather than going into the 4th of July. So that would be that's good news. I think that we can get into a quieter stretch of weather into the 4th, less humid into the 4th, and hopefully more of a pleasant, still seasonable, right? Still warm, but more tolerable for that humidity. So looking good in that aspect. Hopefully that can carry over into the 4th of July. Drew says the heat advisory was just extended to Friday night at 10 o'clock. Yes, we did see that extended. Shane says, tell me about the heat advisory extended to Friday. Had someone down here that had a heat stroke. Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry to hear, Shane. That's awful to hear someone having a heat stroke there. That is terrible. Yeah, so we'll get into that here in just a minute. That's will be the next graphic. We'll dive into that heat continuing. Lola says, okay, with some rain, but all these horrible storms and flooding is no good. I agree, Lola. It's no good to see, but unfortunately continuing likely for a lot of these days. Again, there's no guarantee for severe thunderstorm or flooding into these afternoon and evening hours, but it's just that the potential is there. So unfortunately, just have to keep vigilant and keep weather aware during this stretch. And that's the best advice, really just to keep an eye on the sky, watch for changing weather conditions, have multiple ways to get that warning, and obviously be prepared to take action if a warning is issued, right? Seeking shelter in a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, or, seeking higher ground. And obviously remembering to turn around, not drown in the event of some flooding, if a flash flood warning is placed in effect. So just keep vigilant, have that plan, and be prepared to execute it in the event of a warning issued for your area. Have multiple ways to get those warnings and be safe here as we go through the weekend. So getting back to the heat and humidity, yes, it's remaining hot and humid. Unfortunately, there's not too much relief ahead going into early next week. I think when we will start to see more is the middle of next week. So we have to go all the way to around Wednesday, for the start of July, before we finally start to see the heat and humidity lower, especially the humidity. Around the middle of next week, at least at that point, it does look likely that we'll get into more tolerable humidity levels. And the temperatures, it's not a big drop off, but will likely be more mid 80s at that point. So not quite as hot at that point, and certainly a lot less humidity, which the humidity is the factor that is just not changing during this stretch. So still remaining very humid today, and it remains very humid all the way into Monday of next week. It can lower some Tuesday, but we'll notice more relief by Wednesday of next week. So from now all the way through Monday of next week, it's unbearably humid. These dew points are in the 70s for a lot of the stretch. That's just the point you're almost to start to instantly sweat when you step outside the door. So when you factor in the unbearably humid conditions with temperatures, which can cool some, but even when our temperatures are in the upper 80s, and with unbearably humid conditions, it still feels like it's in the 90s. So for these afternoons ahead, I just foresee that it'll still feel like it's into the 90s for these afternoons looking ahead all the way through Monday. So there's not much relief, unfortunately, there. The heat advisory was extended. Now, I think the overall potential to reach 100 plus for a heat index is lower now for the remainder of the week, which is that criteria for a heat advisory. But I also understand that it's still just hot and humid. So, we still don't want to take it lightly just because temperatures are starting to trend a bit cooler going into the weekend. This is still a hot and humid stretch. We don't need a heat index of 100 to 105 for this heat to be dangerous. So this is still just one of those situations where when it remains hot and humid, practice the heat safety tips, get some breaks from the heat, and find places to cool down, air conditioned, take a cool shower, use a cold compress, find ways to cool down at times, and get out of the heat, right? Even with these temperatures falling back in the 80s, it can still be dangerously warm. To be in this heat for a prolonged period of time, you want to be taking breaks from it and find ways to cool down. So Shane, that would be the best advice. Yes, the heat advisory was extended. I do think the worst of this is past us. In terms of the heat index reaching 100 to 105, I think for the most part this is past us. But again, we don't need that a heat index 100 to 105 for this heat to still be dangerous. And this heat index is still likely into the 90s on a daily basis all the way into Monday. And that is well hot enough to still cause dangers there of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. And, going back into dealing with some of those signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So, even just being in this heat for a prolonged period of time, raises the alarm for becoming heat exhausted, right? To display these symptoms of heat exhaustion, which is feeling faint, dizzy, excessive sweating, cool, pale, clammy skin, nausea, vomiting, rapid, weak pulse, muscle cramps. Those are all symptoms that you may be experiencing heat exhaustion. And the event of that, you don't want to be staying in the heat and you don't want to be pushing yourself, right? You want to get to a cool air conditioned place, drink water, take a cool shower, use a cold compress, find those ways to cool down and get out of the heat if you're starting to notice these symptoms. And like Shane mentioned, you don't want to be pushing yourself, because the unfortunate side of these heat dangers is heat stroke, and that's a medical emergency. And that's to the point where if you're pushing yourself in this heat, or you're out in the heat for an extended period of time, you may start to experience symptoms of a heat stroke. And if you're experiencing symptoms of a heat stroke, that's a medical emergency, and you want to be calling 911 immediately. So symptoms of a heat stroke include a throbbing headache, and in the event of a heat stroke, you've stopped sweating. So if you notice that there's no excessive sweat, there's no sweat at all, no sweating. And that you would yield a red, hot, dry skin, rapid, strong pulse. Those are the symptoms of a heat stroke, and that's a medical emergency. You want to be calling 911 immediately. So maybe you're out in the heat and you notice that your skin it's red, it's hot, it's dry, you're not sweating, you're starting to have a headache. Those are very serious symptoms, and again, that was a medical emergency. Those are symptoms of a heat stroke. You want to be calling 911 immediately. So these are the real dangers of heat. Heat's not to be taken lightly. It's real dangerous to be dealing with this prolonged heat. And the issue is as well, overnight, that it's still warm and muggy. There's just not much relief even at night. So you want to be checking up on the elderly, sick, those especially without air conditioning. And if you can, offer them to come over. If you got air conditioning, offer them to come over, cool down, right? Get out of the heat, as it can become dangerous. And the real issue of this, not only dealing with highs that are near 90 for in the 80s, near 90, going into Monday of next week, just continuing the heat index into the 90s. So it'll feel like it's in the 90s, but the overnight lows, which will likely stay above 70 degrees. So that's warm, muggy nights. So there's just no relief even at night. It's not that, we're hot and humid during the day, but it's turning more cool, comfortable at night. No, that's not the case, right? It's remaining warm and muggy. So there's just no relief from that heat, even into the overnight hours. And that's, certainly where can make the heat even more dangerous. The fact that we just can't cool down at night either, when we're dealing with just some warm and muggy nights. So, I just I just want to be very safe with it, with the heat, right? And you want to be safe dealing with the heat here as we go into next week. And we have to keep vigilant and be safe when it comes to that potential for severe weather and flash flooding as well for, I think, the majority of these afternoon and evenings. That'll be the case here likely as we go into Monday. We'll deal with these scattered showers and thunderstorms again Thursday and Friday afternoon and evening. Not much around overnight and in the morning hours. That includes tonight, Thursday morning, and includes Thursday night, Friday morning. And again, by Friday night, I think we can have a few showers and thunderstorms continue into Saturday. Activity will further pick up Saturday. This is when we can deal with more numerous showers and thunderstorms. So that being said, that activity can be a bit more widespread Saturday with respect to Thursday and Friday. By Sunday, then coverage does look to drop off. It'll be more isolated with those showers and thunderstorms Sunday. So most of us can get by with some dry conditions for the second half of the weekend. And then by Monday, it'll pick back up in the afternoon and evening. It'll carry over Monday night. So these overnight hours, I think the wettest overnight time period would be Monday night. Showers and thunderstorms will likely persist Monday night into Tuesday, with some lingering showers and a thunderstorm possibly in the mix still Tuesday, especially in the morning hours. I'd likely drying up then by the end of the day Tuesday, and that will then start a quieter stretch of weather, I think, going into the middle of next week. Hopefully that can carry over into the 4th of July then, as we notice more tolerable humidity levels and more seasonable high temperatures as well, around the mid 80s going into the 4th of July. So still looking warm into the 4th of July, but not excessive like what we're currently dealing with now into early next week. So certainly it's all good news by next week and the start of July that heat does not look as excessive at that point. And as you can see, thanks to that drop in humidity, these low temperatures are back into the 60s, even mid lower 60s, as we look ahead going through the middle of next week. Lola says, "Have been avoiding outside as much as possible." I don't blame you there, Lola. This heat's been unpleasant to say the least. It really has. This has not been comfortable at all, has it? Drew says, "When I used to work outside, I was always make sure to get back into the shade after I was done my work on the parking lot." It's a good tip, Drew. Absolutely, seeking some shade or air conditioned places at times, getting some breaks from that heat. The blacktop would get extremely hot. Oh man, I bet so, Drew. I always drink plenty of water too and Gatorade. Yeah, that's good tips by Drew. Absolutely, I bet that blacktop would get hot. You get all that heat radiating off of that blacktop. It makes it even warmer. Which is part of the reason why if your car is parked in that parking lot and you go out and get in the car on these hot days, it likely says it's over 100 degrees, and it's really not only reading the air temperature, but it's reading that heat that's radiating off of that blacktop. So I mean, it's going to read even warmer than the actual air temperature. But it's one of those reasons why that your car thermometer or even your thermometer at home may be reading warmer than it actually is, because if you've got a thermometer up against the house or a dark colored object, that heat will radiate off that object, off your house or any other object that may be nearby, and it can read a lot warmer than the actual air temperature. The 4th is looking great again. 5 in a row. Drew mentioning about the good 4th of July. Yeah, it is looking nice. And we're going to be looking forward to that. Certainly breaking that humidity that arrives by the middle of next week from the beginning of July. So certainly looking forward to that. Not to say it's going to be really cool or comfortable, but it'll certainly be more tolerable for those humidity levels and not nearly as hot here as of recent by Biden. It's still warm, but not hot and humid like it is now going into the 4th of July. Shane says, "Well, hopefully everyone stays safe out there and stay cool." I know. I agree with you, Jane. Hopefully, Shane. Hopefully everyone stays safe and stays cool in this heat. As I want to keep weather aware with the potential for severe weather and the flooding concerns here, especially for these afternoon and evenings. Looking ahead, going into early next week, and practice those heat safety tips, and check up on your friends, loved one, neighbors during this hot stretch of weather. And make sure they're doing okay, and especially those that maybe don't have air conditioning, maybe having some air conditioning problems. Help them out, right, and be there for them, and offer them a place to cool down. And a lot of cooling centers open across the area. You can call 211 as a tool that can direct you towards just community resources in general, but that does include then some cooling centers. So if our website WTOB9.com also listing a lot of cooling centers open. You can check out your local fire department or health department's social media pages. I'm sure they're posting some cooling centers open there as well. So if you need a place to cool down, a cooling center is a great option as well. They often offer even some water and a place to cool down as we still deal with this excessive heat going into the weekend. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. You can catch me for the latest coming up News 9 to 10 on Fox 9 News 9 tonight at 11. Again, we're going to try to continue to gather some more information out of Wetzel County. The potential is there for some considerable flooding in near Proctor, especially Proctor Creek Road and Proctor Creek, dealing with upwards of about 3 inches of rain falling in a matter of an hour. And outside of that, still dealing some wind damage in spots going throughout this afternoon. Thankfully, now the activity is winding down. So we're quieting down now for the overnight hours, as some lingering showers that remain will taper off here rather quickly early on tonight. We're drying tomorrow morning, but again, that next round of these showers and thunderstorms likely redevelop for tomorrow afternoon. So we unfortunately can deal with that potential again for severe weather and flooding for tomorrow afternoon and evening. So we're going to be watching this on a daily basis. Again, keep weather aware. Download Severe Weather Team 9 mobile app as a good way to have that warning and a heads up for rain or any lightning near you or heading your way, and have multiple ways to get the warning. Keep weather aware and be prepared to take action, right, if a warning is issued for your location. It's a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Nate at 8. I hope everyone has a good night, and I'll see you on the next edition of Nate at 8.